I never believed in hauntings. Not until the night my daughter whispered, "Daddy, the man in the walls is calling your name." That was the moment everything inside me broke, because my daughter doesn't have a father. Not anymore. Not since the day he vanished without a trace. If you're listening, don't make the same mistake I did. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe now, because what I'm about to tell you, no one else would dare to say out loud. My name is Daniel. I'm a single father, and for most of my life, I've considered myself a rational man. Logical, grounded, someone who believes in what he can touch, see, or explain. But nothing, absolutely nothing prepared me for the moment my daughter, Ellie, began telling me about the presence living inside our home. It started 2 weeks after we moved into the old house on Ashford Lane. The place had a strange charm, like the kind of quiet house people retire to. It was cheap, too cheap. But when you're a single parent trying to build stability, sometimes you take what you can get. At first, Ellie seemed happy. She explored every corner of the house with her big curious eyes, dragging her stuffed rabbit across the dusty wooden floorboards. She smiled more than I'd seen in months. But on the 4th night, everything changed. She woke me up at 2:17 a.m. I remember that time exactly because the digital clock glowed red like an open wound in the dark. "Daddy," she whispered, tugging on my sleeve, her voice trembling. "There's someone in my room." I jolted awake instantly. "What do you mean? Someone where?" "In my wall," she said, hugging a rabbit tighter. "He's tall." I sat up, heart pounding. A break-in, a wild animal, a draft. I ran through every rational explanation my mind could muster. I walked her back to her room. The walls were colder than they should have been. I checked under the bed, inside the closet, knocked on the wall just to reassure her. "It's just the house settling," I told her. "Houses make noises sometimes." She didn't argue, but the way she stared at that wall, like she expected a hand to burst through it, that expression never left my mind. 2 days later, she gave the presence a name. We were having breakfast when she pointed toward the hallway and murmured, "He's standing there again." I froze mid-bite. "Ellie? Who is the man in the walls?" she whispered. "His name is Cole." My stomach tightened. I hadn't heard that name in years. Cole, my ex-fiancé, a man who walked out of my life 7 years ago, leaving behind nothing but an empty ring box and a lifetime's worth of questions. He vanished. The police searched for weeks. Everyone assumed he simply ran away. But Ellie didn't know that name. I never said it. Not once. I forced a smile and asked, "How do you know his name?" She shrugged. Told me. For the first time since we moved in, real fear slid beneath my skin. That night, after Ellie fell asleep on the couch, she refused to go near her room. I walked into her bedroom alone. The house hummed in silence. The kind of silence that feels heavy, like it's pressing against your ears. I stood there, staring at the wall she was so afraid of. A faint draft whispered through the cracks near the floor. Then I heard it. A sound so soft at first I thought I imagined it. Scratch. Scratch. Drag. It came from inside the wall. My breath caught. I stepped closer. "Cold," I whispered immediately, regretting it. The scratching stopped instantly. The silence that followed was alive, listening. And then, just beside my left ear, a voice breathed out, "You kept her from me." I stumbled back, hitting Ellie's toy chest. Chills whipped up my spine. I wanted to run. Every instinct screamed at me to get the hell out, but something inside me wouldn't let me leave. Maybe it was fear. Maybe denial. Maybe the part of me that needed answers I'd buried for years. The next morning, Ellie didn't look scared. She looked strangely calm, like someone who had made peace with something terrible. "He says you're listening now," she murmured. I knelt in front of her. "Ellie, sweetheart, what does he want?" She leaned closer, her tiny fingers curling into my shirt. "He wants to come out." A cold sweat broke across my neck. "Come out from where?" I asked. "From the door." "What door?" She pointed at the wall behind her bed, at a small, circular mark I had always assumed was old paint damage. Except now, it looked like an outline. A perfect outline of a hidden door. I stared at that faint circular outline on the wall. A perfect ring the size of a dinner plate, barely visible unless you were looking right at it. "How long has this been here?" I muttered. Ellie didn't answer. She just watched me, her head tilted, too calm for a child her age. "What did he tell you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "He said you locked him inside a long time ago," she said softly. "And he's tired of waiting." A tremor ran through my hands. "Ellie, that's not true," I whispered, but her expression didn't change. She wasn't accusing me. She was repeating something she believed. I pressed my fingers against the circular mark. The wall felt unnaturally cold, like touching metal left out on a winter night. "Daddy," Ellie said quietly, "he wants you to open it." My heart kicked in my chest. "Open what?" Before she could answer, the wall vibrated under my palm. A deep, hollow knock pulsed from inside 3 times. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Each one rattled through my bones. Ellie smiled faintly. "He remembers." My breath shook. "Remembers what?" But she didn't answer. She just turned and walked out of the room, humming a tune I'd never heard before. A tune far too old for a child to know. I stood there alone, staring at that wall, at the circular outline that now felt less like paint damage and more like a warning. That night, I tried to stay awake on the couch. I left every light in the hallway on, every door open, every window locked. But exhaustion eventually dragged me under. I wasn't asleep long when a sharp crack split the silence. Like wood snapping in half, I bolted upright. Ellie wasn't on the couch anymore. "Ellie," I called out. No answer. My chest tightened as I climbed the stairs, my footsteps echoing too loudly in the dark. Her bedroom door was open, and inside the wall behind her bed had changed. A long, jagged split carved straight from floor to ceiling. The paint peeled away like torn skin. Plaster crumbled in chunks onto the floor. The room smelled like damp earth, and something else, something old. My pulse hammered in my jaw. "Ellie," I shouted. That's when I saw her. She stood in front of the cracked wall, still, calm, almost peaceful. Her small hand was stretched forward, her fingers intertwined with another hand. A man's hand, long, thin, pale, like it hadn't touched sunlight in years. I stepped back instinctively. No. 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 Ellie didn't look scared. She looked relieved. "Daddy," she whispered. I brought him back. The crack in the wall shuddered. Dust fell like snow around her feet. A voice drifted out soft, jagged, broken by years of disuse. "Daniel." My blood ran cold. I knew that voice, even after years of silence, even after convincing myself he was gone forever. "Cole," I breathed. His fingers tightened around Ellie's hand. She smiled at me, too calmly, too knowingly. "He said you shouldn't have locked him inside," she said. "He said it's time you remember." The wall pulsed like a heartbeat. The crack widened with a low groan. A shadow shifted behind it, a shape leaning forward, stretching outward. I lunged for Ellie, but the moment my hand reached her, the wall swallowed them both. The crack snapped shut like a mouth. Ellie's scream didn't echo. It just stopped, cut off, instantly. Gone like she had never been in the room at all. The police arrived 20 minutes later. I must have called them in a blind panic. I barely remember dialing the number, but I do remember the way the officers looked at me, how they surveyed the room with raised eyebrows. "Sir," one of them said flatly, "there's no damage to this wall." He dragged his palm across the surface. Smooth, untouched, like nothing had ever been there. "There's no sign of forced entry," another added. "No fingerprints, no footprints, no struggle. Check the wall. Primera escena, Pip. Check inside it. She's in there." The officer gave me a sympathetic look, the same kind people give when they think you've lost your mind. "Sir, grief can do strange things." I nearly hit him. Grief didn't carve open a wall. Grief didn't drag my daughter into darkness. Grief didn't whisper my name from inside the plaster, but they wouldn't listen. They left 20 minutes later, leaving me standing in the center of Ellie's room, staring at a perfectly normal, perfectly smooth wall. A wall that wasn't normal at all. Because as soon as the last officer stepped out the door, a faint whisper slithered from behind the plaster. Daniele backed away slowly. Then another voice joined it higher. Smaller, trembling. "Daddy, let us out. Out." I felt my knees weaken. "Ellie," I whispered. A soft scratching answered me. Then her voice again, almost singing now. "Daddy, open the walls." I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard them, Ellie's soft voice, and behind it, Cole's deeper, rasping whisper, moving inside the walls. I sat on the floor of her room until sunrise, my back against the cold plaster, breathing shallow, terrified that if I moved even an inch, I'd miss the sound of her calling for me again. Just before the sun came up, I heard her, very faint, very close. "Daddy." My throat tightened so hard I could barely speak. "I'm here, sweetheart. I'm right here." "It's dark," she whispered. "He says, you know the way." My heart punched against my ribs. "I don't know anything." "Ellie, just tell me where you are." But she went quiet. Only the scratching remained. Soft, slow, rotating, like fingers dragging circles inside the wall, around the same spot as before. The outline, the hidden door. Around noon, I finally forced myself to stand. I felt sick, exhausted, shaken, but I needed answers. I needed any reason that made sense. I tore open every drawer, every closet, every packed box, looking for something. Documents, old letters, photographs. Anything that tied Cole to this house. Something told me the truth wasn't in the present. It was buried somewhere behind years of denial. After an hour of searching, I found it. A thin wooden box wedged at the bottom of a storage bin I hadn't opened in years. My hands trembled as I lifted the lid. Inside were a few things I thought I'd thrown away long ago. A Polaroid of me and Cole from when we were still together, an ultrasound photo. A key, then a letter addressed to me in Cole's handwriting. The sight of his handwriting made my chest collapse in on itself. Sharp, angled strokes, just the way he used to write grocery lists, birthday notes. All the small things we shared before everything fell apart. I opened the letter. The paper crackled like old bones. "Daniel, if you're reading this, it means I failed, and I need you to finish what I started." My stomach twisted. "You must keep the door sealed. No matter what it says, no matter who it pretends to be, it lies. It always lies." My breath turned cold. "I'm sorry. I know this will hurt you, but it chose me first. And when I tried to leave, it wouldn't let me." The next line was smeared, as if written with shaking hands. "If it wants you now, don't open the wall. Whatever you do, don't open the wall." I dropped the letter. My pulse roared in my ears. What did he mean it? Not him, not Cole, but something else. Something that had taken him, something that now had Ellie. I walked slowly back to her room, the letter clenched in my fist. The house felt wrong, heavy, like the air itself knew what I'd found. As I crossed the threshold, the wall exhaled a long, cold breath that brushed across my face. Then I heard her again. "Daddy, please. I'm scared." I pressed my palm flat against the wall. Ellie, Ellie, listen to me. I found a letter. Cole didn't. A second voice rose over hers. Deeper. Closer. Daniel, you owe me. I jerked my hand back. No. 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 This isn't you. You're not Cole. A soft chuckle vibrated through the wall. Not warm. Not human. Open the door, and I'll show you. I stumbled back until my spine hit the dresser. The outline on the wall began to darken that from shadow, but like something behind it was pressing forward. A shape. A face. No. A mask of a face. Indentations pushed forward under the plaster eye sockets. Cheekbones. A twisted mouth stretched too wide. The wall pulsed like it was breathing. Daddy, Ellie whispered, please hurry. I broke, hearing a voice, hearing a fear. It ripped me open. I slammed my hand on the wall. Ellie, tell me where you are. Silence. Then, behind the door, my head spun. What door? Ellie? What door? But I knew. I already knew. The answer was pressed against my palm. The circular outline wasn't paint. It was real. A hidden door. A door someone, maybe Cole, maybe something else, had sealed shut. The letter's warning echoed through my head. Don't open the wall. But Ellie was inside. My daughter. My only child, her tiny voice trembling in the dark. I couldn't leave her in there. I wouldn't. I grabbed a hammer from the toolbox in the hallway. My hand shook so badly I nearly dropped it. The moment I stepped back into her room, the wall trembled like an animal, sensing blood. A low hum vibrated through the floorboards. I raised the hammer. Daddy, Ellie whispered. So faint. So close. I shut my eyes. Ellie. Hold on. I'm coming. I swung the hammer with all my strength. The drywall exploded in a cloud of dust. Something hissed inside the wall. Not like a person, but like air sucking through teeth. A warning. A threat. I hit again and again. Faster. Harder. Driven by fear, love, and an instinct deeper than thought. On the fourth hit, the hammer punched through something hollow. A wooden panel. A door. The hidden door, covered in scratches. Thousands of them. Some long, some frantic, some too small to be human. The doorknob was rusted, molded into the wood like it hadn't been touched in decades. But the keyhole matched the key from the box. I swallowed hard. Everything in my body screamed not to do it, but Ellie was behind that door. My daughter, and I'd burned the whole world down for her. I pulled the key from my pocket. My hand hovered over the lock. Behind me, the wall whispered good. And then, louder, open IT. Danielle. The key hovered in my trembling hand, its cold metal pressing into my fingertips, as if urging me to make the choice that would decide whether I ever saw my daughter again. The hidden door was breathing. Not metaphorically. Not as an image of fear. The wood moved, swelling and collapsing like lungs filling and emptying with sickening rhythm. Every instinct screamed for me to run, but a parent's instinct. That's stronger, and it pulled me toward the keyhole like gravity. I pressed the key forward. The moment it touched the metal, something whispered on the other side. Not Ellie, not Cole, but something else entirely. A voice that wasn't a voice. A layered echo, like multiple mouths speaking from the same throat. We'd been waiting. I froze. My grip tightened around the key. Ellie. I shouted. Sweetheart, if you can hear me, say something. Silence. Then Daddy, please don't. My breath shattered in my chest. Ellie, don't open it. Her voice was small, broken, terrified. I pressed my forehead against the door, tears burning behind my eyelids. "Ellie, baby, I'm right here. I'm not leaving without you." I slid the key into the lock. The wood groaned, shuddering under my touch. Behind me, the wall began whispering again, dozens of voices, overlapping, murmuring my name. "Daniel. Daniel. Let us in. Let us out." I didn't turn around. I couldn't. There was only the door. Only my daughter, and the thing that had taken her. As I twisted the key, a deep vibration surged through the floor, rattling the frame of the entire house. The sound wasn't wood creaking. It was deeper, older, like the grinding of stone inside the earth. The lock clicked. Every whisper stopped, absolute silence. Then the door swung open by itself. A blast of cold air hit me, sharp enough to burn my skin. The room beyond the door wasn't a room at all. It was a narrow passage descending into blackness. Not a basement. Not a crawl space. Something carved by hands or claws or something between the two. The walls pulsed faintly, like veins lit with a dying heartbeat. At the bottom of the passage, I saw her, Ellie, standing perfectly still, her back to me, a stuffed rabbit dangling from one hand. She wasn't breathing. "Ellie," my voice cracked. "Say," turned. "Ready?" Slowly. Her face was pale, her eyes wide and glassy, as if she were looking through me rather than at me. "Daddy," she whispered. "He's behind you." I spun around, but nothing was there. Just darkness, stillness, silence. Then I looked back at Ellie and saw a figure emerging from the deeper shadows behind her. A tall, thin silhouette. Its limbs were too long. Its fingers scraped the walls as it moved, and though its shape imitated a man, its face wasn't human anymore. It had no mouth, no nose, only two indentations where eyes should have been, and yet I felt it stare into me, into everything inside me. "Cole," I whispered, though I already knew this was no longer him. A wet, cracking sound came from its neck as its head tilted. "Daniel. Daniel." The voice ruptured the air like tearing cloth, not from a mouth, but from the walls, the floors, the ceiling, as if the whole house spoke. Ellie stepped closer to me, but her movements were wrong. "Jerky." Puppet-like. Her small voice trembled. "Daddy, he said you were supposed to stay. Not me." "What?" I stumbled backward, gripping the doorframe. She pointed at the creature. "He chose you first, but you left." The creature stepped forward, its fingers leaving deep grooves in the pulsing wall. "You locked me in," it hissed. "Now she replaces you." My heart ruptured with panic. "No. No, Ellie. Come here, come to me." She didn't move. The creature reached for her. I lunged. I grabbed her, pulling her against my chest. Her body was ice cold, as if she had been standing in a freezer for hours. The creature shrieked a sound that broke every light bulb in the hallway above us. Glass rained down like shimmering snow as the walls convulsed. It rushed toward us. I slammed the door shut, but the moment the wood connected, the creature struck back. The door buckled inward. I shoved my body against it, pinning Ellie behind me. "Ellie! Run!" I shouted. But Daddy, the door won't stay go. She crawled past me, scrambling up the passage. The creature hit the door again, the force jarring my bones, ripping through my muscles. "Daniel," it hissed. "Give her back." Never. Another impact. A crack split down the door. A claw pushed through the wood. Long, jointed, dripping with something black and thick. I dug my heels into the ground. My arms felt like they were being torn apart. Above us, Ellie reached the top of the passage. "Daddy," she screamed. "Come on!" But the creature struck the door again, so violently the entire frame lurched inward. I was losing. Fast. "Daddy, please." Her voice stabbed into my chest, and in that moment, something in me snapped. Not with fear. With resolve. With love. With determination that no creature, no monster, no nightmare would take my child. I threw my whole weight back, slamming the failing door shut one last time. The creature howled. The house shook. The door frame cracked. Then silence. Complete silence. A silence that felt wrong, as if something had paused the entire world. I stepped back slowly. The door remained closed. The cracks stopped spreading. The house stilled. For a moment, I thought it was over. That I had won. That Ellie was safe. But then, the door whispered. Not in Cole's voice, not in the creature's voice, but in Ellie's. Soft, loving, broken. "Daddy, why did you leave me inside?" I froze. Ellie, my voice was barely a breath, but she was behind me at the top of the stairs, and something else. Something where in her voice was behind the door. "I didn't sleep that night. How could I?" Every time I closed my eyes, I heard it, the soft, dragging sound of nails across wood. Slow, scratching, moving from wall to wall, as if someone was searching for a way in. By sunrise, my nerves were shredded. The police had left hours earlier, shaking their heads, quietly labeling me as another grieving parent losing touch with reality. But none of them saw what I found after they were gone. It was under Ellie's pillow. A notebook. Small. Pink, with little silver stars on the cover. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside, written in her uneven handwriting, were sentences that felt like knives. He says Mommy forgot what she did. Mommy forgot she locked him inside. Mommy forgot he was my father. He said I have to remind her. He said I have to stay with him until she remembers. I felt my stomach lurch. My knees nearly buckled. I flipped to the last page. Just one sentence, written darker, harder, pressed so deep it almost tore the paper. Mommy, open the walls. My breath hitched, because at that exact moment, the scratching started again, but not from Ellie's room. From my bedroom wall. Closer. Lower. More intentional. I stepped backward, shaking so badly I could barely keep the notebook in my hand. Then, a whisper seeped through the wall. Not a man's voice. A child's. Soft. My heart stopped. Let me in. The wall pulsed, like something inside was pushing out, feeling for weak spots. The drywall bowed, cracked, splintered. I ran. I didn't grab a coat, or shoes, or even my phone. I just ran out of that house and down the street like the ground behind me was collapsing. But no matter how far I got, the sound followed me. A faint scratching, a small voice whispering my name. I don't know how long I ran before collapsing under a streetlight. All I know is this. The walls aren't silent, not anymore. And I think he found a way out. Because tonight, as I hide in a motel miles away, there's a knock on the door. 3 slow knocks. just like before, and a whisper right outside. Mommy, I brought him with me. If you're still here, don't leave me alone with this. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Because if you hear scratching inside your walls tonight, I want you to be prepared.